Evan Rook pulled his coat tighter around his shoulders as the rain fell harder. The streetlights blurred in the wet haze, and the sound of raindrops hitting the pavement was loud in the quiet city. His daughter Lila held his hand, small and cold in his own. She shivered, her little jacket not enough to keep her warm. He glanced down at her, giving a gentle smile. "Almost home, Lila," he said. "Just a little more." The city felt empty tonight. Most people were inside, hiding from the storm, leaving only puddles and reflections on the wet asphalt. The sound of distant traffic was muffled, and the wind blew the smell of wet concrete and fresh rain. Lila's small boots splashed in puddles and she laughed softly. Evan smiled but kept his eyes moving, always alert. He had learned that the city at night could be unpredictable, especially when you were alone with a child. As they turned a corner, Evan noticed something unusual near an alley. At first he thought it was a discarded bag, but a movement made him stop. A tall figure was slumped against the wall, drenched in rain. The figure's head hung low and they barely moved. Evan's protective instincts rose immediately. He looked down at Lila, who was curious, her eyes wide. "Stay close to me," he whispered. He approached slowly. The closer he got, the stranger the figure appeared. The skin seemed to glow faintly, almost like it was reflecting the rain in an unnatural way. Their clothes were unusual, shiny and smooth, unlike anything Evan had ever seen. It looked like armor but lighter, more like a second skin. The figure's breathing was uneven, shallow, and quick. Evan knelt down beside them. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked softly. No answer came. He reached out, touching the figure's shoulder. It was warm but tense and they flinched slightly. Evan pulled back immediately, giving them space. He glanced at Lila, who tilted her head, sensing something was different. She didn't speak, just held his hand tighter. Evan knew he had a choice. He could leave and avoid the risk, or he could help. The father in him could not leave someone in trouble. "We need to get you out of the rain," he said gently. Carefully he offered his arm for support. The figure slowly lifted their head and Evan noticed the eyes. They were not human, large, dark and shining like black pearls with small flecks of light inside. They blinked slowly, almost cautiously, studying him. The figure finally tried to speak. The words were soft, strange, broken, almost musical. "Help, please," they managed. Evan nodded. "Yes, I'll help. Come with me." He helped them stand, though they were weak, their legs trembling. Lila watched quietly, fascinated rather than afraid. They moved slowly through the rain. Evan guided the figure to a nearby bench under a dim streetlight. He sat them down carefully, keeping his distance but close enough to offer comfort. He took off his coat and draped it over their shoulders. The figure looked down at it as if unsure what to do but accepted it. "I'm Evan," he said. "This is my daughter Lila." He paused, giving them time. "You don't need to be afraid here." The figure's lips moved again, trying to form words. "Selah Havarn," she whispered. Evan repeated the name slowly. "Selah, that's a nice name." The rain continued to pour, falling in heavy sheets. Evan noticed how soaked her hair and clothes were, sticking to her skin. Her breathing was still uneven. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small towel. "Here, dry off a little," he said. She took it awkwardly, unsure how to use it, but she followed his motions. Evan admired her quiet patience. Lila, curious as ever, stepped forward. "Are you hurt?" she asked in a small voice. Evan gently stopped her. "Let's let her rest first, honey," he said. He knelt beside Lila, speaking softly. "Sometimes people just need kindness and calm. That's enough to help them feel safe." Lila nodded solemnly, watching Selah with wide eyes. Evan tried to understand her. She clearly was not from here. Her skin shimmered slightly, and the patterns on her armor moved as if alive. The rain seemed to avoid her in small streams, falling around her but not entirely wetting some areas. It was strange and beautiful. Evan's mind raced with questions. Who was she? Where did she come from? But for now those questions could wait. She needed care first. Hours passed slowly. Evan spoke quietly to her, telling small stories, explaining the city at night, the sound of rain, the lights. She listened, sometimes responding in small words, trying to repeat what he said. It was simple, but it built a bridge. Evan could see her relaxing, her breathing slowly evening out. The fear and tension in her shoulders eased a little. The night deepened, but Evan stayed. He watched the rain fall, the way it shined on her armor and on the street. He noticed a quiet strength in her, even in her weakened state. There was something noble, something brave in the way she sat, soaking wet, trusting a human she barely knew. Evan smiled faintly. Sometimes courage was quiet. Sometimes it arrived soaked in rain, needing only a hand to help it stand. Finally Lila yawned, sleepy and wet. Evan scooped her up, holding her close. "Time to go home," he whispered. He helped Selah to her feet again. Her legs wobbled slightly, but she trusted him enough to follow. The rain slowed to a drizzle, the city quiet except for the distant hum of life. Evan led them down the streets, feeling a strange mix of fear and hope. That night, under the rain and streetlights, a single father and his daughter had made a choice. They had helped someone who was different, someone strange, someone from somewhere far away. And in that choice, something had begun, a connection neither of them yet understood. The night was wet, dark and silent, but for the first time, Evan felt a flicker of something extraordinary about to enter their lives. Evan guided Selah carefully down the wet street, her movements slow and unsteady. Each step she took seemed cautious, as if she was not entirely sure her legs would hold her. Lila walked beside them, her small hand clutching Evan's. She was quiet, her eyes fixed on Selah, curiosity shining brighter than fear. The glow from Selah's skin reflected faintly in the puddles on the pavement, giving her an almost magical appearance. Evan had never seen anything like it before. He stopped under a flickering streetlight, giving Selah a chance to rest. The light illuminated her features more clearly. Her face was sharp and elegant, with high cheekbones and eyes that seemed deeper than any human's. Evan noticed the subtle patterns on her armor, the way the lines shifted slightly, almost like they were alive. He tried not to stare, but he could not hide his fascination. Selah seemed tired, yet there was still an alertness in her gaze, a wariness that suggested she was trained to expect danger. I need shelter," she whispered, her voice soft and strange, breaking the rhythm of the rain. Evan nodded. "Yes, you do." "My place isn't far," he said, glancing at Lila. "Will you be okay walking a little more?" Lila nodded, already used to small adventures with her father. "I'll be good," she said. Evan led them through narrow streets, keeping close to the walls to avoid the wind. Selah followed silently, her eyes scanning the surroundings constantly, alert for something invisible to them. Evan noticed that she flinched slightly at every shadow, at every unusual sound. It reminded him of how humans sometimes reacted in foreign places, nervous and cautious. He wondered what she had experienced before, what dangers she had faced, and why she was here, alone and injured, in the middle of a human city. Finally they reached his small apartment building. It was modest, with peeling paint and a narrow staircase, but it was warm and safe. Evan helped Selah inside and guided her to the living room. He offered her a chair and grabbed a towel from the kitchen. "Here," he said, handing it to her. "You're soaked. This will help a little." She took it slowly, awkwardly, her long fingers brushing against his. Evan noticed her hesitation, as if she had never been treated with care like this before. "Water?" he asked, filling a glass and placing it on the small table. Selah nodded, taking it with careful hands. She drank slowly and Evan watched her. Every movement was precise, controlled, like a soldier, yet she seemed exhausted. Lila, sitting on the couch nearby, tilted her head. "Are you hungry?" she asked softly. Evan smiled. "Maybe a little later. Right now, let's make sure she rests first." Selah's gaze drifted around the room. She noticed the small details: family photos on the wall, books stacked neatly on a shelf, Lila's small toys scattered across the floor. Her expression softened. She was a soldier, a warrior from another world, but this place, this human home, felt foreign and yet strangely comforting. Evan watched her closely. He wanted to make her feel safe, even if just for a short time. "I am Selah Varn," she said after a moment, her voice careful. Evan repeated the name softly. "Selah. Nice to meet you. I'm Evan and this is Lila." She nodded slightly as if memorizing the names. Evan noticed how her breathing had calmed a little, how her shoulders relaxed. The fear in her posture was still there, but it had lessened. The rain outside continued, tapping against the windows. Evan moved to close them, reducing the sound, trying to create a small sanctuary in the storm. Selah watched him with quiet intensity, noting every action, every small gesture. She did not speak much, but her eyes seemed to absorb everything. Evan could feel her tension slowly melting away, replaced by cautious curiosity. Lila, sensing that Selah was still unsure, moved closer and offered her a small stuffed toy. Selah looked at it, her dark eyes wide with curiosity. She held it awkwardly, unsure what to do, then gave a small nod. Lila smiled and said, "It's okay. You can hold it." For a moment, Selah allowed herself to relax, cradling the toy gently. Evan felt a small sense of triumph. This simple act of trust was bigger than any battle he had fought in life. Evan sat down on the couch across from her, speaking softly. He told her stories about the city, about small things that mattered to him and Lila. He spoke of the way the streets changed in the rain, of the lights reflecting in puddles, of quiet nights like this one when the city seemed to breathe slowly. Sayla listened, sometimes tilting her head, repeating words quietly, trying to understand. She was learning, and more importantly, she was beginning to trust. Hours passed. The storm outside began to ease, the rain thinning to a gentle drizzle. Evan could see that Sayla's breathing had become regular, her posture more relaxed. She looked at Lila, watching her sleep briefly on the couch and then back at Evan. There was something unspoken between them, a connection born of kindness and care. For a soldier trained to survive, this simple human act of compassion was unfamiliar and powerful. Finally, Evan stood and stretched. "You should rest now. You've been through a lot," he said gently. Sayla nodded, slowly lowering herself onto the couch. He draped a blanket over her shoulders. She looked at him, and for the first time, there was a small, human-like softness in her expression. She did not understand it yet, but she felt it: safety, warmth, and trust. Evan watched her for a moment, then turned to Lila, carrying her upstairs to bed. When he returned, he glanced once more at Sayla. The storm had passed, and the city was quiet. The streetlight under which he had first found her had gone out, leaving only the soft glow from inside his apartment. Outside, the world was dark and wet, but inside, a bond was beginning to form. A bond that would change everything. He thought about how strange the night had been, how one small act of help could lead to something extraordinary. Sayla, a stranger from a distant world, was now under his roof. She was not a threat, not an enemy, just someone who needed help. And Evan knew, deep in his heart, that he could not turn away. Something unexpected was beginning, and it all started under the quiet streetlight, in the middle of a rainy night. Sayla woke to the soft light of morning filtering through the window. The rain had stopped, and the city outside looked calm, almost ordinary. She blinked slowly, her body stiff from sleeping on the couch. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then she remembered, this was not her ship, not her home world. She was on Earth, in a human home, safe, and it felt strange. Evan was in the kitchen making breakfast. The smell of toast and coffee filled the small apartment. Lila was already awake, sitting at the table, swinging her legs and humming softly. She looked up and smiled at Sayla. "Morning," she said cheerfully. Sayla hesitated, not sure how to respond. She had never shared a morning like this with anyone. Soldiers rarely had moments of peace like this. Mornings were for preparation, training, or missions. She nodded slightly. Evan noticed her watching and smiled gently. "Good morning, Sayla," he said. "Breakfast will be ready soon. You should eat something." She studied the food, unsure. The smells were familiar, but the concept of sitting down and eating with a family, it was new to her. Slowly she moved to a chair, keeping her distance. Evan handed her a plate with simple toast and fruit. Lila offered her some juice and Sayla took it cautiously. As she ate, Evan watched her closely. He could see the tension in her shoulders, the careful way she moved, always aware, always alert. She was a soldier, trained to survive and fight, yet here she was, learning to accept kindness. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "You don't have to be afraid of anything for now." She looked up at him, studying his face. The words were simple, but their meaning was hard for her to grasp. Soldiers were not used to safety without duty attached. After breakfast, Sayla walked to the window, looking at the city. Everything seemed so quiet, so small compared to the places she had been. Her home world was filled with war, discipline, and constant movement. Earth, to her, felt soft, fragile, yet alive in a way she had never noticed. Evan joined her, standing silently, giving her space to observe. I am not from here," she said softly. "My mission, my world, it is far away." Evan nodded. "I understand," he said. "You're allowed to rest here for a little while. That's enough." She turned to him, surprised. "Rest, without reason?" she asked. Evan smiled faintly. "Sometimes rest is its own reason," he replied. She considered this. In her life, rest was always a pause between duties, never a choice. Over the next few hours, Sayla began to relax. She watched Lila play with her toys, asking small questions about them. Evan showed her how to fold the tiny clothes, how to pour juice without spilling. These were simple tasks, but Sayla felt a strange curiosity. Humans lived in small moments, not just battles and missions. She wondered what it would be like to experience more of these moments, to live without constant vigilance. Lila, sensing her hesitation, approached Sayla. "Do you want to play?" she asked. Sayla looked at the small human, unsure. But the girl's smile was patient and kind. Slowly she sat down on the floor and watched as Lila stacked blocks. Her hands, trained for combat and precision, moved gently as she joined in. The blocks wobbled and fell and Lila laughed. Sayla felt something she did not have a name for: amusement, joy, and something warmer like a memory of peace. Evan watched from the kitchen doorway, his heart light. This was more than helping a stranger. It was teaching a warrior that strength was not only in fighting or surviving. It was in patience, in understanding, in choosing kindness. Sayla's walls were still high, but they were beginning to shift. He could see her questioning, wondering, learning. Later, Sayla helped Evan water the small plants on the windowsill. She noticed how careful he was, how he talked to each one, giving names and attention. It seemed trivial, almost meaningless in a soldier's life, yet she realized it mattered deeply. This care, this small human effort, was a type of strength she had never understood. She smiled faintly to herself, though she quickly covered it, and used to expressing such feelings. As the day continued, Sayla spoke more about her world, cautiously, piece by piece. She explained the missions, the alliances, the rules of her soldiers. Evan listened without judgment, only offering calm responses and simple questions. He did not push for details she was uncomfortable sharing. His patience created trust, and with trust Sayla felt something new, the desire to open even a little. Evening approached. The sky turned orange and pink, the city reflecting the colors and puddles left by the rain. Sayla stood at the window watching. Evan joined her quietly, not speaking. Lila played nearby, building another small tower of blocks. The house was peaceful, filled with human sounds, laughter, quiet footsteps, the soft hum of life. Sayla's mind wandered. Could she stay here longer? Could she understand this life without fear? She did not know. Finally, Evan spoke softly. "Sayla, you don't have to stay forever. You have your mission, your world. But while you're here you are safe. You are welcome." She looked at him, and for a moment her expression softened completely. No armor, no soldier's mask, just a glimpse of who she could be. Thank you," she said, her voice small but sincere. Night fell. The city lights blinked on one by one, reflecting in the puddles. Sayla sat quietly, thinking about what she had learned today. Humans were strange and fragile, yet strong in ways she had never seen. A single father and his child had shown her that courage was not only in battle, but in kindness, patience, and care. And for the first time, she wondered if her mission and her world were as important as the choices she made in these quiet moments. Evan tucked Lila into bed, then returned to Sayla. "It's late," he said. "You should rest." She nodded, finally allowing herself to lie down on the couch under the blanket he had given her. Her body relaxed, her breathing even. For the first time since arriving on Earth, Sayla felt something like peace. She was a soldier, yes, but in this small apartment with this human family, she was learning that there could be more to life than duty and survival. The night was quiet, and Sayla stared at the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow. She knew she could not stay forever, but the small human moments she had shared today, the laughter, the trust, the calm, would remain with her. And somehow she realized these moments might change her forever. The next morning, Sayla awoke to a soft, golden light spilling through the window. The city had cleared of rain, and the streets glistened under the sun. Birds chirped faintly in the distance. She stretched, feeling her body less stiff than before. For the first time in what felt like weeks, she did not feel the constant weight of vigilance pressing down on her. She was safe, at least for now. Evan was already in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. The smell of eggs and toast filled the small apartment. Lila bounced in, rubbing her eyes and yawning. "Good morning," she said brightly. Sayla nodded, unsure how to reply. She had learned greetings were simple for humans, but saying them felt strange on her tongue. She was learning slowly, and Evan's calm presence made her feel less awkward. "Morning," Evan said warmly. "Sleep well?" Sayla hesitated before answering. "Yes, better," she whispered. Her voice sounded small, even fragile, compared to the strength she usually carried. Evan did not press her for details. Instead, he simply offered a reassuring smile. Sometimes words were not needed. After breakfast, Sayla helped Lila get ready for school. She watched the little girl tie her shoes, fascinated by the small human routines. Humans had so many tiny habits, so many gestures that seemed meaningless, yet they built a life full of meaning. Sayla realized that these small moments required patience, understanding, and care, skills that were different from the ones she had learned as a soldier, but no less valuable. Evan gently reminded Sayla that she could not stay hidden forever. She understood, her people would notice her absence soon. But he also reminded her that while she was here, she did not need to fight, did not need to hide. Sayla looked at him, her dark eyes thoughtful. I do not know how to live without mission, she admitted. Evan nodded. Sometimes, living without a mission is the hardest thing. But it can also be the most rewarding. As the morning passed, Sayla observed the city from Evan's apartment. Cars moved slowly along the streets, people walked quickly with umbrellas, and the sun reflected off the puddles left by last night's rain. She was fascinated by how life continued so naturally, so peacefully, even when storms came and went. This calmness was something she had rarely experienced. On her world, storms meant danger, fear, and survival. Here they were just moments that passed. A soft sound from the living room drew her attention. Lila had brought a small box of toys to show her. "Do you want to play?" the girl asked shyly. Sayla hesitated. Playing was not part of her life, not part of her training. But she knelt slowly, mirroring the girl's posture. She moved carefully, learning the rhythm of play. Lila's laughter was bright, warm, and contagious. Sayla felt something strange inside her, an emotion she had no name for, a feeling of joy and peace she had never experienced. Evan watched them, smiling quietly from the doorway. He had seen many things in his life, but nothing as extraordinary as this. A warrior from another world, learning to smile, learning to trust, learning to experience small human joys. He realized that strength was not only in power or combat, but in the ability to be kind, to be patient, to share moments with others. The day moved slowly. Evan went about small chores, showing Sayla how to fold laundry, prepare simple meals, and keep the apartment in order. She mimicked his actions carefully, learning without instruction. Sometimes she faltered, but Evan encouraged her gently. Each small success built trust, not just between them but within herself. She was learning that there was more to life than orders, missions, and survival. In the afternoon, a quiet hum sounded from her communicator. Sayla stiffened immediately, instinctively reaching for it. Evan noticed the change in her posture. "It's okay," he said calmly, though his heart raced slightly. "If you need to answer it, you can. But you don't have to." Sayla hesitated, then slowly touched the device. Her fingers moved over it delicately. The signal was from her people. They were calling, wondering where she was, what she was doing. She knew that reporting could change everything. Sayla looked at Evan. He met her gaze steadily, giving her the strength to make her choice. She realized that she did not have to respond immediately. She could stay in this moment a little longer. For the first time, she felt that her actions could be guided by choice, not just duty. Wait," she whispered into the communicator, delaying her report. Evan nodded. That small decision was huge for her. She had chosen a moment of peace over obligation, trust over fear. Evening came, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Sayla stood at the window, watching the city glow as lights flickered on. Lila was doing homework at the table, Evan helping her patiently. Sayla observed, realizing that humans found balance in their lives in ways that were subtle, quiet, and powerful. She had always thought strength came from power and control, but here she saw it came from patience, care, and compassion. Evan approached her. "You've seen how we live," he said softly. "Life is simple sometimes, but it's strong too. You don't need to fight every moment. Sometimes just being is enough." Sayla listened carefully. She had never heard words like this in her life. They were not orders, they were not strategies. They were guidance, gentle and wise. She felt something open inside her, a part of herself that she had long ignored. As night fell, the city quieted. Sayla prepared to sleep again, this time feeling a strange sense of calm. She had touched another world without conflict. She had seen humans act not out of duty but out of heart. She understood in small ways that her mission could be more than fighting. It could be about learning, observing, and choosing. And perhaps, just perhaps, she could take something from this world back to her own, a new understanding of strength, peace, and trust. Evan tucked Lila into bed, then returned to check on Sayla. "You're safe," he said quietly. "And you are welcome here." She nodded, a small smile on her lips. Thank you," she replied. It was simple, yet it carried weight. For a soldier who had never known kindness in the middle of war, it was a gift she would never forget. The night was quiet. The lights of the city shimmered in puddles, and a gentle wind moved through the streets. Sayla lay on the couch, thinking about what she had learned. Worlds could touch without conflict. Strength could exist without battle. Trust could be built without force. And the smallest moments, shared in quiet kindness, could change everything. The next morning the city woke slowly. Sunlight reflected off wet streets, and the air was fresh with the scent of rain. Sayla sat quietly at the window watching people walk along the sidewalks. She had spent the night thinking about her mission, her world, and the unexpected peace she had found here. For the first time she felt something different: hope. Evan was in the kitchen making breakfast. Lila was already at the table, humming softly while arranging her cereal. Sayla joined them cautiously. She had learned a lot about humans in the last few days, but mornings like this were still new to her. She sat, waiting for Evan to offer guidance. He smiled gently. "Sit. Eat," he said simply. She nodded, accepting a plate. The warmth of the food felt comforting, and she noticed how small gestures could carry meaning, how simple care could feel like safety. Lila looked up at her. "Are you staying today?" she asked. Sayla hesitated. She wanted to say yes, but she knew her world would notice her soon. "I cannot stay long," she admitted. Lila frowned. "But I like you," she said softly. Sayla's lips curved into a small smile. She was touched by the child's honesty. "I like you too," she said, her voice quiet, almost fragile. After breakfast, Evan and Sayla spoke privately. He wanted to prepare her for the choice she would soon have to make. "Your people will call you," he said gently, "and you will have to answer. But remember, your choice is yours. Not all decisions must follow orders." Sayla listened carefully. She had spent her life following commands, obeying missions, and prioritizing duty over feelings. This idea, that she could choose, was new, even frightening. Around noon the communicator vibrated. Sayla froze, instinctively reaching for it. The signal was from her superiors, confirming her location and demanding her immediate report. She held it, staring at the glowing screen. Her fingers trembled slightly. She had to decide: follow orders and return immediately, or delay and take responsibility for her choice. She looked at Evan, who gave her a calm nod. That small gesture gave her strength. "I will wait," she whispered, touching the communicator lightly. She knew this decision could be dangerous, but she felt a sense of trust she had never felt before. Evan's presence reminded her that not all actions were dictated by fear. Some were dictated by heart, by compassion, by the belief that kindness could be stronger than orders. The day passed slowly. Sayla helped Lila with her homework, teaching her simple patterns and shapes she had never thought to notice. Lila laughed when she made mistakes, and Sayla found herself laughing too, something she had not done in a long time. Evan watched, quietly proud. He realized that humans had a power that was rarely measured in strength or weapons, but in patience, love, and understanding. As evening approached, the city began to glow with lights reflecting in puddles from yesterday's rain. Sayla prepared to leave but hesitated. She had grown attached to this small family, to this home filled with calm and laughter. Evan noticed and said softly, "Whatever you decide, know that your choice will matter, not because of power but because of heart." She looked at him, understanding the truth in his words. With a deep breath, she activated the communicator again. Her voice was steady. "Earth is protected. No harm," she said. Her commanders were surprised, questioning her decision, but she held firm. She could not explain fully why, only that she had learned something new, that humans, even small and fragile, were capable of extraordinary strength through kindness. Her choice would change the perception of Earth forever. Before leaving, she knelt to Lila's level. "I thank you," she said, "for your trust, your care. I will remember this." Lila hugged her tightly. "I will miss you," the girl whispered. Sayla felt something warm and strange, a bond she had never imagined possible between a soldier and a human child. She nodded, trying to convey that this connection mattered more than any mission. Evan walked her to the small alley where she had first fallen in the rain. The glow of her skin reflected faintly in the twilight. "Goodbye, Sayla," he said simply. She turned, eyes soft. "Goodbye, Evan. Goodbye, Lila. Thank you for showing me," she paused, searching for words. "For showing me life can be gentle." With that, she stepped into the light and vanished, leaving behind no trace of danger, only hope. Weeks passed. Evan and Lila returned to their ordinary lives, but the memory of Sayla lingered. One evening, while watching the city in a gentle drizzle, a soft light appeared in the sky. It was faint but unmistakable. A message not of war, not of threat, but of gratitude. Sayla's actions had been noticed, her choice respected. Humanity had been recognized not for power, but for heart. Evan held Lila's hand, feeling the warmth and connection of family. "See," he said softly. "Even the smallest kindness can make a difference." Lila nodded, eyes wide with wonder. The city continued to glow, alive and peaceful, reflecting the lessons that had been shared. One father, one child, and one alien soldier had shown that worlds could meet without conflict, that choices born from compassion could change destinies. In a quiet room far away, Sayla looked at the stars, remembering the small apartment, the laughter, and the warmth she had felt. She realized that her mission would never be the same. She had learned a truth that could not be commanded. True strength was in connection, trust, and the willingness to care, even in the smallest moments. Evan tucked Lila into bed, smiling softly. "Remember," he whispered, "every act of kindness matters. Even the smallest choices can change everything." Outside, the city lights shimmered in the rain, peaceful and alive. Somewhere beyond the stars, a soldier from another world carried that lesson with her, and Earth would never be quite the same again. The night was calm. The rain fell lightly on the streets, glinting in the city lights. Somewhere far away, Sayla's ship moved silently, carrying her beyond human eyes. Yet a bond remained, unspoken but powerful. Choices made from kindness had rippled outward, touching worlds. And for a single father, his daughter, and one alien soldier, something extraordinary had begun. Something that would be remembered not for power or war but for heart.